In the heart of a bustling city, where the streets pulsated with life and danger lurked around every corner, a question hung in the air like a thick fog. What would you do if you found yourself caught between the life of a notorious mafia boss and the unwavering faith of a nun? The vibrant neighborhood was a tapestry of contrasting elements. Bright neon lights flickering above dive bars, the distant sound of laughter mingling with the echo of sirens, and the scent of street food wafting through the alleys where shadows crept like whispers. Here, amidst this chaotic blend, lived Serafina, a nun whose heart brimmed with compassion and whose life was dedicated to helping those lost in the turmoil. Serafina, with her soft brown eyes and gentle demeanor, devoted her days to the community, providing solace to the broken and the downtrodden. She was known for her unwavering dedication and the warmth she brought to those around her. Her small chapel stood as a beacon of hope, a place where the weary could find refuge. Yet in this neighborhood, not all souls were in need of salvation. Some thrived in darkness, ruling with an iron fist. Among them was Vincent, a mafia boss whose very name sent shivers down the spines of even the toughest men. Vincent was a man of contradictions, feared and respected in equal measure. With his chiseled jaw and piercing blue eyes, he commanded attention wherever he went. His reputation as a ruthless leader was well earned. He had built an empire on a foundation of intimidation and cunning. But beneath the surface of his bravado lay a vulnerability he seldom allowed others to see. He was a man who, despite his power, often felt isolated in a world where trust was a luxury few could afford. As fate would happen, their worlds were destined to collide in a way neither could have anticipated. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the city, Vincent found himself in a precarious situation. He had been celebrating a recent victory over a rival gang, but the thrill of his success was soon overshadowed by an unexpected threat. A rival faction, seeking revenge for their losses, had been tracking his every move, and that night they were ready to strike. Meanwhile, Serafina was in the chapel, kneeling in quiet prayer. The soft candlelight flickered around her, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold reality outside. She prayed not only for her own strength, but for the safety of those she served. Yet, as if the universe had conspired against her moment of peace, the distant sound of gunshots shattered the tranquility. Her heart raced as she rose to her feet, instinctively drawn toward the source of the chaos. Outside, the streets were ablaze with panic. People ran in every direction, their screams echoing through the night. In the midst of the chaos, Serafina's eyes locked onto a figure stumbling into the alley, a figure she recognized all too well. Vincent, blood dripping from a wound on his shoulder, staggered toward her, desperation etched across his face. For a moment, time stood still as their gazes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Despite their vastly different lives, in that instant they were united by a shared instinct for survival. Without thinking, Serafina rushed toward him, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound of gunfire echoed in the distance, but all she could focus on was Vincent's pain and the instinct that drove her to protect him. She reached out, pulling him into the safety of her embrace, shielding him from the chaos around them. As bullets ricocheted off the walls, she instinctively positioned her body in front of him, her own safety a distant thought. In that moment, all that mattered was keeping him alive. Vincent, taken aback by her unexpected bravery, felt a flicker of something he had long buried, a sense of vulnerability mixed with gratitude. The woman he had often mocked for her naivety was now the very person standing between him and death. "What are you doing?" he gasped, the pain in his shoulder intensifying as he leaned against her. "Just hold on," Serafina urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil around them. "We need to get you somewhere safe." The urgency in her tone contrasted sharply with the chaotic reality, but she refused to let fear dictate her actions. With every ounce of strength, she helped him navigate through the alleyways, ducking behind dumpsters and weaving through the shadows, determined to find refuge. As they reached a hidden safe house, Serafina quickly ushered Vincent inside, locking the door behind them. The room was dimly lit, filled with the scent of dust and secrecy. She could hear his labored breathing as he leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. The adrenaline coursing through her veins slowly began to fade, replaced by a sense of urgency to tend to his wounds. "You're going to be okay," she reassured him, though doubt lingered in the back of her mind. Vincent glanced at her, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Why did you do that?" he asked, the confusion evident in his voice. "You could have been killed." Serafina hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because I couldn't just stand by and watch," she replied, her voice soft yet firm. "I believe that every life has value, even yours." The admission hung in the air, a revelation that seemed to challenge everything Vincent had ever believed. As she tended to his wound, carefully wrapping the bandage around his shoulder, Vincent found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. He had always prided himself on his strength, but this woman, this nun, had seen through his bravado and reached the vulnerable part of him he had long buried. "You really think I have value?" he asked, his tone laced with incredulity. "Yes," Serafina affirmed, meeting his gaze. "You may have made choices that others deem unforgivable, but redemption is always possible. It's never too late to change." Her words resonated within him, igniting a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. The walls he had built around his heart began to crack, allowing a glimpse of the man he could be beneath the layers of fear and arrogance. "You really think I have value?" he asked, his tone laced with incredulity. "Yes," Serafina affirmed, meeting his gaze. "You may have made choices that others deem unforgivable, but redemption is always possible. It's never too late to change." Her words resonated within him, igniting a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. The walls he had built around his heart began to crack, allowing a glimpse of the man he could be beneath the layers of fear and arrogance. As they spoke, the tension in the room shifted, the air thick with unspoken questions. Serafina learned about Vincent's troubled past, the childhood that had shaped him into the man he was today. He spoke of betrayal, loss, and the dark choices that had led him down the path of organized crime. In turn, she shared her own struggles, the doubts that often crept into her mind about her faith and her purpose in a world filled with suffering. The bond that formed between them was unexpected, yet undeniable. Serafina found herself drawn to Vincent's complexity, while he began to see her not just as a nun, but as a woman of strength and conviction. Their conversations flowed like a river, meandering through their fears and hopes, and for the first time in a long while, Vincent felt the weight of his loneliness lift, if only slightly. But as the night wore on, the reality of their situation crashed back in. The rival gang would not rest until they had avenged their losses, and Vincent's life hung in the balance. "They'll come for me," he stated, the gravity of his words settling heavily in the room. "And when they find me, they'll take you too." Serafina's heart raced at the thought. "We need to come up with a plan," she said, her mind racing with possibilities. "We can't let them find us here." The urgency of their predicament ignited a fire within her, a determination that pushed her to think beyond her own fears. Together, they began to strategize, their fates now intertwined in a dance of survival that neither had anticipated. As dawn approached, the first light of daybreak illuminated the room, casting long shadows against the walls. Serafina looked at Vincent, her heart swelling with a mix of compassion and resolve. She knew that their journey was just beginning, and the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But in that moment, she also felt a flicker of hope, a belief that perhaps, even in the darkest places, light could be found, and that their unexpected connection might lead them both toward a path of redemption. Little did they know, the events that had unfolded would set off a chain reaction, forever altering their lives and the lives of those around them. As they prepared to face the uncertain future together, the question lingered in the air. What would they sacrifice for the sake of survival? And what truths would they uncover along the way? Serafina stood in the dimly lit safe house, the air thick with tension and the faint scent of antiseptic mingling with the earthy smell of damp wood. The world outside continued its chaotic dance, oblivious to the fragile truth that had formed between her and Vincent. She glanced at him, his face pale against the backdrop of shadows, a stark contrast to the bravado he had displayed just hours earlier. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just outside their makeshift sanctuary. Vincent shifted uncomfortably on the makeshift bed, the pain from his gunshot wound evident in his sharp intake of breath. Serafina's heart ached for him, despite the darkness of his world. She had always been taught to extend compassion, to love thy neighbor, but how could she reconcile that with the life he led? As she carefully dressed his wound, her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of the choices that lay ahead. "What were you thinking?" Vincent's voice broke the silence, laced with a mixture of irritation and confusion. "You could have gotten yourself killed." Serafina met his gaze, her blue eyes unwavering. "I couldn't let you die."
"No one deserves that, even someone like you," he scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "Someone like me? You really think I'm worth saving? I'm a monster, sister. I'm the reason people suffer." "Perhaps," she replied softly, "but even monsters can change. Redemption is possible if you're willing to seek it." Vincent's expression hardened, but there was a flicker of something deeper beneath his bravado. Curiosity, perhaps. "And what makes you think I want redemption? This world doesn't allow for weakness." Serafina paused, her fingers hovering over the bandage. "Because you're scared, Vincent. You hide behind your power, but deep down, you crave something more. I see it in your eyes." He turned his head away, refusing to acknowledge her words. "You don't know me, sister. You see what you want to see." She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her purpose. "I see someone who's been hurt, someone who's been forced to fight for survival in a world that doesn't care. But you don't have to fight alone anymore." Vincent's silence spoke volumes. The weight of her words hung in the air, creating a fragile bond between them, a connection that was as unexpected as it was profound. They were two souls caught in a storm, each seeking refuge in the other. As night fell around them, the atmosphere shifted. Serafina found herself sharing stories of her life, of the community she served, and the people who had taught her the meaning of resilience. Vincent listened, his eyes narrowing with interest, absorbing her words as if they were a lifeline thrown into the turbulent seas of his existence. In return, he began to unravel the layers of his own past, revealing glimpses of the boy he once was before the world had hardened him. "I didn't choose this life," he confessed, his voice low. "I was born into it. I had no choice but to survive." Serafina nodded, understanding the weight of his burden. "Survival doesn't have to mean losing your humanity. There's always a choice, Vincent." Their conversations flowed like a river, carving new paths through the rocky terrain of their lives. Serafina felt a strange warmth growing within her, a connection blooming in the unlikeliest of places. She could see the man behind the monster, the flicker of hope in his darkened heart. But their moment of vulnerability was shattered by a sudden crash outside, the sound of shattering glass and shouting voices piercing through the night. Serafina's heart raced as she instinctively moved closer to Vincent, her protective instincts kicking in. "We need to hide," she whispered urgently, her eyes darting toward the door. Vincent's demeanor shifted instantly, the hardened Mafia boss re-emerging. "Stay here," he commanded, his voice low and authoritative. "No," she insisted, grabbing his arm. "You're in no condition to fight. We need to stick together."
He hesitated, the tension between them crackling like electricity. Then, with a resigned sigh, he nodded. "All right, but if they come for us, we fight." Serafina's heart pounded as they moved deeper into the shadows of the safe house. They crouched behind an overturned table, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. The sounds of chaos grew louder, shouts, footsteps, and the ominous sound of gunfire in the distance. The world outside was descending into madness, and in that moment she realized how quickly everything could change. Vincent's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining instinctively. "You're not afraid?" he asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "I've faced fear before," she replied, her voice steady. "But fear won't control me." He looked at her, something shifting in his eyes. "You're different. Most people would run from me." "Perhaps," she said, squeezing his hand gently, "but I see potential for change. I see a man who can be more than what he is." The door to the safe house burst open, and two figures stormed in, their faces masked and their intentions clear. Serafina's breath hitched in her throat, and she instinctively pulled Vincent closer, her heart racing as adrenaline surged through her veins. Vincent's demeanor shifted again, a predatory instinct taking over as he sprang into action. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his voice a low growl. The intruder shouted, demanding to know where Vincent was. He remained calm, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk assessing its prey. Serafina's heart raced as she watched him, torn between fear for their safety and admiration for his unwavering resolve. Just as the tension reached its peak, Vincent lunged forward, his movements fluid and calculated. Serafina gasped, her instincts telling her to intervene, but she remained frozen in place, her heart pounding as she witnessed the strength and skill of the man she had once deemed a monster. The scuffle was chaotic, a blur of movement and sound, and Serafina felt herself drawn into the fray, her instincts kicking in. She grabbed a nearby chair, wielding it like a shield, ready to defend Vincent if necessary. Her heart raced, a mixture of fear and adrenaline coursing through her veins as she prepared to fight for their survival. Vincent dispatched one of the intruders with a swift movement, but the second attacker lunged at him, a knife glinting in the dim light. Serafina's instincts surged, and in that split second, she hurled the chair at the assailant, knocking him off balance. Vincent seized the opportunity, disarming the attacker with a swift motion. In the aftermath, they stood panting, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins as they assessed the situation. The intruders lay incapacitated on the floor, and Serafina's heart raced as she realized the extent of their ordeal. Vincent turned to her, a mix of surprise and admiration in his eyes. "You fought back." "I couldn't just stand by and let you get hurt," she replied, breathless. "We're in this together, remember?" He nodded, a newfound respect evident in his gaze. "You're stronger than I thought." "And you're more than just a monster," she countered, her voice steady. "We can find a way through this, together." The moment hung in the air, the weight of their shared experience forging a bond that neither had anticipated. As they caught their breath, Serafina realized that the lines between light and dark were blurring, and in this chaotic world, they had found a flicker of hope amidst the shadows. But the threat wasn't over. The sounds of sirens grew closer, and they knew they had to move quickly. "We can't stay here," Vincent said, urgency lacing his voice. "We need to find a way out before more of them come." Serafina nodded, her mind racing as she considered their options. "There's a back exit. I know a way to get to the alley behind the building." Vincent's eyes narrowed as he assessed her. "Lead the way," he said, his voice steady. As they made their escape, Serafina felt the weight of their circumstances pressing down on her. But in that moment of chaos, she also felt a sense of purpose. They were two unlikely allies, bound together by circumstance, and perhaps fate was leading them toward a path neither could have foreseen. As they slipped into the dark alley, the night air was cool against her skin, a stark contrast to the heat of their encounter inside. Serafina glanced at Vincent. his face illuminated by the distant glow of streetlights. The man she had once viewed as a villain was now a partner in survival, and she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. Little did they know, the real challenges lay ahead, and the choices they made in the coming days would define not only their survival, but the redemption they both sought. The alley was drenched in darkness, the faint sounds of the city echoing off the brick walls surrounding Serafina and Vincent. Her heart raced, not just from the adrenaline of their escape, but from the weight of the moment. They were two souls intertwined by chaos, each carrying burdens that threatened to consume them. As they moved deeper into the shadows, the scent of damp pavement mixed with the distant aroma of street food, reminding Serafina of her life before this whirlwind, a life filled with routine prayers and community service. Vincent leaned against the cool brick, his breath heavy, a stark contrast to the calm determination that had once defined him. She could see the flickering streetlight casting an uneven glow on his face, revealing the vulnerability he rarely showed. "You didn't have to do that," he said, his voice low, filled with a mix of gratitude and confusion. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" Serafina paused, searching for the right words. She had acted on instinct, driven by a deep-seated belief that every life was worth saving, even one as twisted as his. "Every life has value, Vincent. Even yours," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil swirling within her. "I believe that everyone has a chance for redemption, even those who have lost their way." He tilted his head, a flicker of something, curiosity perhaps, crossing his features. "Redemption?" he scoffed, though it lacked its usual bite. "You think I'm redeemable? I've done things, horrible things." "Everyone has a past," she countered, a fierce resolve growing within her. "What matters is what you choose to do now." The air around them crackled with tension, an unspoken understanding forming between them as the gravity of their situation settled in. As they moved cautiously through the alley, Serafina's mind raced. The gunfire had been a stark reminder of the danger that surrounded Vincent, and by extension, her. The rival gang was on their trail, seeking vengeance for the attack on their territory. Their next move could be the difference between life and death. They reached a hidden doorway, a small, nondescript entrance that led to a safe house, a refuge for those entangled in the web of crime and desperation. Vincent pushed the door open and they stepped inside, greeted by the dim light of a flickering bulb. The room was sparse, furnished with little more than a worn-out couch and a rickety table. Yet it felt like a sanctuary, a place where they could momentarily escape the chaos outside. Vincent sank onto the couch, wincing as he adjusted his position. Serafina quickly moved to his side, assessing the wound on his shoulder. The blood had slowed, but the damage was evident. "We need to clean this up," she said, her voice firm as she rummaged through a small medical kit she found on the table. "I'm no doctor, but I can at least make sure it doesn't get infected." "Is this really necessary?" Vincent asked, his bravado slipping as he winced again. "I mean, I'm not exactly worth saving." Serafina shot him a look, a mixture of frustration and compassion. "You are worth saving," she insisted, her hand steady as she cleaned the wound. "You just don't see it yet." As she worked, the silence between them grew heavy, filled with unasked questions and unspoken fears. Vincent watched her with an intensity that made her heart race. He was a man who had spent his life in darkness, yet here she was, willing to help him, a stark contrast to the world he had known. "Why do you care?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. "You could have walked away. You could have left me to die." "Because I believe in hope," she replied, meeting his gaze with unwavering sincerity. "Even when it seems hopeless, I see the pain in your eyes, Vincent. I see the man beneath the crime boss facade." He looked away, processing her words. The vulnerability she had glimpsed earlier flickered in his eyes, a battle raging within him. "You're naive," he muttered, but there was a softness in his tone that contradicted his words. "Maybe," she admitted, wrapping a bandage around his shoulder. "But I'd rather be naive and hopeful than bitter and lost." With each passing moment, the barriers between them began to crumble, their shared vulnerability creating a bond that neither had anticipated. Vincent was a man who had built walls around his heart, but Serafina's presence was slowly chipping away at the defenses he had erected over years of betrayal and loss. Just as she finished bandaging his wound, the sudden sound of footsteps echoed outside, sending a shiver down Serafina's spine. Her instincts kicked in, and she moved to the window, peering through the grimy glass. Her heart raced as she spotted a group of men loitering near the entrance of the alley, their demeanor menacing. "Vincent," she whispered urgently, turning back to him, "we need to move. They're here." His expression hardened, the familiar arrogance creeping back into his voice. "Let them come. I'm not afraid." Serafina shook her head, fear gripping her heart. "This isn't about bravery. This is about survival. We can't let them find us here." She grabbed his arm, urgency lacing her words. "We have to escape before it's too late." Vincent hesitated, torn between his instincts as a fighter and the reality of their situation. "What do you suggest?" he asked, the edge of vulnerability still present in his voice. "We can use the back exit," she suggested, glancing around the room for possible escape routes. "It leads to a series of tunnels beneath the city. We might be able to lose them if we hurry." He studied her, the conflict evident in his eyes. "And then what? You think we can just disappear?" "First, we survive," she replied firmly. "Then we figure out what comes next." With a reluctant nod, Vincent stood, their momentary bond forged in the crucible of danger, strengthening his resolve. They moved swiftly through the safe house, Serafina leading the way as they approached the back exit. Her heart raced, a mix of fear and adrenaline propelling her forward. She could feel the weight of Vincent's presence beside her, a reminder of the fragile alliance they had formed. They slipped through the narrow doorway into the dark tunnel, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. As they moved deeper, the muffled sounds of the city faded, replaced by the echo of their footsteps. Serafina could feel Vincent's presence beside her, a comforting weight in this claustrophobic space. "Do you have a plan?" he asked, his voice low, the tension palpable. "Just keep moving," she urged, her heart pounding in her chest. "We'll find a way out." The darkness enveloped them, but Serafina felt a strange sense of purpose guiding her. They were no longer just a nun and a Mafia boss. They were partners in survival, bound by circumstance and the choices they made in the face of danger. As they reached a fork in the tunnel, Serafina hesitated. "Which way?" she whispered, glancing at Vincent. "Left," he replied, a surprising confidence in his voice. "I know these tunnels. I've used them before." "Then lead the way," she said, trusting his instincts as they ventured deeper into the unknown. The air grew colder, and the darkness pressed in around them, but Serafina felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Little did they know, the dangers lurking above were just as real as the shadows that surrounded them. The rival gang was relentless, and their pursuit had only just begun. With every step they took, the stakes escalated, but so did the bond forming between them, a bond that would be tested in ways neither could have anticipated. They emerged from the tunnel into a narrow street, the moonlight casting an ethereal glow on the deserted pavement. Serafina took a deep breath, the cool night air filling her lungs. It felt like a moment of reprieve, but they both knew it was temporary. "Where do we go now?" Vincent asked, scanning the area warily. "Anywhere but here," she replied, determination flooding her voice. "We need to find a place to regroup and figure out our next move." "Do you trust me?" he asked suddenly, looking her directly in the eyes. She hesitated, weighing the gravity of his question. Trust was a fragile thing, especially in a world as chaotic as theirs. But in that moment, she realized that they had come too far to turn back.
I trust you enough to keep moving forward, she said finally. Vincent nodded, a hint of respect flickering in his gaze. Then let's keep moving. As they stepped into the night, the tension between them transformed into an unspoken understanding. They were two people from opposite worlds, drawn together by fate and circumstance, each grappling with their own demons. In the face of danger, they would have to learn to rely on each other, navigating the complexities of their lives while confronting the darkness that threatened to consume them both. With every step into the unknown, Serafina felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was not just a nun caught in a web of crime. She was a beacon of hope in a world overshadowed by despair. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could help Vincent find his way back to the light. As the chaos from the gunfire subsided, Serafina and Vincent found themselves in a dimly lit room, the walls bearing witness to their tumultuous encounter. The adrenaline coursing through their veins began to fade, leaving behind a heavy silence punctuated only by their labored breaths. Serafina glanced at Vincent, who was propped against the wall, a bandage hastily wrapped around his shoulder where the bullet had grazed him. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that she had never seen before, a flicker of uncertainty that contradicted the bravado he had always exuded. "Why did you protect me?" Vincent's voice broke the silence, laced with confusion and a hint of something deeper. Serafina hesitated, the weight of her actions pressing down on her. I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was instinct. You were in danger, and I couldn't just stand by." His brow furrowed as he processed her words. "You could have gotten yourself killed. You risked everything for me." "It's not just about you, Vincent," she replied, her conviction growing stronger. "I believe in saving lives, whether they belong to the innocent or the lost. You may be a mafia boss, but you're still a person." He scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "A person? I'm a monster, Serafina. I've done things, unspeakable things." "Maybe," she conceded, "but everyone has a chance to change. You're not beyond redemption." Their eyes locked, and in that moment a fragile connection formed between them. Vincent's facade began to crack, revealing the man beneath the layers of hardened exterior. He leaned forward, wincing slightly from the pain, but his gaze remained steady. "What if I don't want to change? What if I like the darkness?" "Then you're choosing to live in a prison of your own making," she countered, her voice firm yet gentle. "But I believe you're more than the life you've built. You have a choice, Vincent." As they spoke, the tension outside the safe house loomed like a dark cloud, the threat of the rival gang still very much alive. Serafina could feel her heart racing, not just from fear, but from the unexpected bond forming between them. It was a connection she had never anticipated, and yet it felt undeniably real. "Listen," Vincent said, suddenly serious. "We're not safe here. They'll come looking for me, and if they find you—" He trailed off, the implication hanging heavily in the air. "I won't leave you," she declared, her resolve unwavering. "You need me now more than ever." His expression softened, and for the first time she saw a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. "You're crazy, you know that?" "Maybe," she replied with a small smile, "but I'd rather be crazy than let fear dictate my actions." The night wore on, the two of them sharing stories, their pasts colliding in a way that felt both foreign and familiar. Serafina spoke of her life in the convent, the struggles of faith, and the power of forgiveness. Vincent, in turn, revealed snippets of his childhood, the loss that had shaped him, and the choices that had led him down a path of crime. They were two souls navigating the murky waters of their respective worlds, searching for meaning amidst the chaos. As dawn began to break, casting a soft light through the cracks in the walls, Serafina felt a sense of urgency. "We can't stay here much longer. We need to find a way out, together."
Vincent nodded, his expression shifting from resignation to determination. All right then, what's the plan? First, we gather supplies. We'll need food, water, and a way to communicate with my community. They can help us, she suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. Your community? He questioned, skepticism creeping into his voice. You think they'll help me after everything I've done? They'll help anyone in need, she replied firmly, but we have to act fast. As they prepared to leave their temporary refuge, the reality of their situation weighed heavily on both of them. Outside, the city was awakening, the sounds of life slowly returning. Serafina felt a mix of hope and apprehension. She had never imagined herself in such a precarious position, standing side by side with a man like Vincent. But now, as they faced the unknown together, there was an undeniable bond that had formed, a bond forged in the fires of adversity. The sun rose higher, illuminating the world outside as they stepped into the daylight. The streets were bustling, oblivious to the turmoil that had unfolded just hours before. Serafina felt a surge of determination as they moved through the crowd. She could sense Vincent's tension beside her, the way he scanned the area for signs of danger. Stay close, she instructed, her voice steady. Just act normal. Normal? You mean like a nun walking with a mafia boss? He quipped, a hint of humor breaking through his anxiety. Exactly, she replied, a smile tugging at her lips. We'll blend in. No one has to know. As they navigated through the throngs of people, Serafina's heart raced with every step. The reality of their situation loomed large. Vincent was still a target, and she had put herself in the line of fire by standing beside him. But despite the fear gnawing at her insides, there was also a flicker of hope. Perhaps they could find a way to escape this nightmare, to carve a path towards a future that was not defined by violence and darkness. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Serafina! She turned to see Sister Agnes approaching, her expression a mixture of concern and relief. I was looking for you. We were worried. Everything is fine, Serafina assured her, though the tension in her voice betrayed her. I need your help. Sister Agnes's gaze shifted to Vincent, her eyes widening in recognition. You brought him here? It's complicated, Serafina replied hurriedly, but he's not what you think. He needs our help. Vincent's demeanor shifted as he sensed the apprehension in Sister Agnes's eyes. I'm not here to cause trouble, he said, his voice surprisingly calm. I just want to survive. Sister Agnes studied him for a moment, her expression softening. Then we'll help you, but you must understand that this is a sanctuary. We can't allow violence or danger to follow you here. I promise, I'm done with that life, Vincent stated, sincerity radiating from him. I just want to find a way out of this mess. With a hesitant nod, Sister Agnes gestured for them to follow her. Come, we need to talk. As they made their way back to the convent, Serafina felt a mixture of apprehension and hope. This was a turning point, a chance for Vincent to prove he could change. But could she truly believe in his potential for redemption? Once inside, they gathered in a small room filled with sunlight streaming through stained glass windows, creating a kaleidoscope of colors on the walls. Serafina felt a sense of peace wash over her, but familiar surroundings grounding her amidst the chaos outside. I know this is a lot to take in, Sister Agnes began, her voice steady. But we're here to support you, Vincent. We believe in second chances. Vincent's gaze dropped to the floor, the weight of their words hanging heavily in the air. I don't deserve it. None of us do, Serafina interjected, her heart aching for him. But it's not about deserving. It's about choosing to do better. He looked up, their eyes locking once more. And what if I fail? Then we'll be here to help you get back up, Sister Agnes replied. You're not alone in this. In that moment, something shifted within Vincent. The walls he had built around himself began to tremble, the idea of hope seeping through the cracks. I don't know if I can change." "You can," Serafina urged, stepping closer. "You've already taken the first step by being here, by allowing us to help you." As they shared their fears and hopes, the room filled with a sense of purpose. They were united by a common goal: to find a way to navigate the darkness together, to confront the challenges ahead with courage and faith. Days passed, and with each moment that Vincent spent within the sanctuary of the convent, a transformation began to take shape. He engaged with the community, helping with various tasks and slowly breaking down the barriers he had erected over the years. Serafina watched as he interacted with the children, his laughter mingling with theirs, a sound she never thought she would hear from him. But the shadows of his past lingered, a constant reminder of the life he had led. The rival gang was still out there, their thirst for revenge unquenched. Serafina could feel the tension mounting, the threat of violence ever present. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the sky, Vincent approached Serafina, a serious expression etched on his face. "I need to talk to you." "About what?" she asked, sensing the gravity in his tone. "I can't keep hiding forever. They'll come for me, and I won't put you or anyone else in danger." Her heart raced at his words. "What are you saying?" "I have to face them. I need to end this once and for all." "Vincent, no," she protested, fear flooding her senses. "You can't put yourself in that position again. We can find another way." "I've been running for too long, Serafina. It's time to stand and fight," he declared, determination burning in his eyes. Serafina felt a mix of admiration and dread. She understood his desire to confront his past, but she couldn't bear the thought of losing him. "But what if something happens to you?" He stepped closer, his voice low and earnest. "If I don't do this, I'll never be free. I need you to trust me." Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she fought them back. "I do trust you, Vincent, but this isn't just about you. It's about all of us." "I know," he replied, his expression softening. "But I can't keep running. I have to take responsibility for my actions." They stood in silence, the weight of their choices hanging in the air. Serafina felt her heart breaking at the thought of him facing danger alone, but she also recognized the truth in his words. Perhaps this was the moment he needed to reclaim his life, to break free from the chains of his past. After a long moment, she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then I'll be there with you." Vincent's eyes widened in surprise. "You can't. It's too dangerous." "I can't let you face this alone. We'll do it together," she insisted, her resolve unyielding. As they prepared for the confrontation that awaited them, Serafina felt a sense of purpose wash over her. They were two souls intertwined, bound by their choices and the paths they had chosen. In the darkest of nights, they had found a flicker of light, and together they would face whatever came their way. The day of reckoning arrived, the atmosphere thick with tension as they approached the abandoned warehouse where Vincent's rivals awaited. Serafina's heart pounded in her chest, fear and determination warring within her. "Are you ready?" Vincent asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. She took a deep breath, nodding resolutely. Together. As they stepped into the shadows of the warehouse, the air crackled with anticipation. Vincent's former allies, now adversaries, loomed before them, and the stakes had never been higher. Serafina felt her pulse quicken as she grasped Vincent's hand, a silent promise that they would face whatever came their way. The confrontation that ensued was fraught with tension, words exchanged that were sharp as knives. But as the situation escalated, Serafina found her voice amidst the chaos. "This doesn't have to end in violence. We can find a way to coexist." Vincent stood beside her, his presence a shield against the hostility surrounding them. "I'm done with this life. I won't be your pawn anymore." The rival gang hesitated, caught off guard by the unexpected unity between the NUN and the Mafia boss. In that moment, a shift occurred, an opportunity for dialogue instead of destruction. As the dust settled, the confrontation took an unexpected turn. Through Serafina's unwavering belief in redemption and Vincent's newfound resolve, a truce was forged. It was a fragile alliance, but it marked a shift in the dynamics of their world. In the aftermath, as they stepped back into the light, Serafina felt a sense of relief wash over her. Vincent had confronted his past, and together they had carved a new path forward. She could see the change in him, an ember of hope flickering where once there had only been darkness. "Thank you," he said softly, a genuine smile breaking through his earlier tension. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "I always will," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "You've shown me that even in the darkest places, there's always a chance for light." As they stood together, the sun setting behind them, Serafina realized that their journey was far from over. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, but they would face them hand in hand. Together, they would continue to navigate the complexities of their lives, embracing the unexpected connections that had formed in the most unlikely of circumstances. With newfound hope in their hearts, they walked towards the horizon, ready to face whatever awaited them. And as they stepped into the future, Serafina whispered a silent prayer, grateful for the bonds they had forged and the light they had found amidst the darkness. "Thank you," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "And thank you for being my light," she replied, knowing that together they could illuminate even the darkest of paths. As they disappeared into the distance, the world remained unaware of the transformation that had taken place. A mafia boss and a nun, united by fate, each choosing to embrace their humanity and the possibility of redemption. In that moment, Serafina knew that love could flourish in the most unexpected of places, proving that even amidst chaos, hope could prevail. And as the final rays of sunlight faded, a new dawn awaited them, filled with promise and the potential for a brighter tomorrow. If you enjoyed this journey of transformation and redemption, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tales that inspire and resonate. Your support helps us continue to bring these stories to life, so hit that notification bell to stay updated on our next adventure. Thank you for being part of our community.